Welcome to Cody and Gold on 610 Sports Radio. On today's show, are the Chiefs striving for a top 10 defense next year? When the hell are the Jets and the Packers going to pull off this Rodgers trade? And is it time to worry about our friend MJ Melendez? Special guests include Josh Vernier at 12:30. Now two guys whose takes are amongst the highest hard-hitting percentage in sports talk radio, Cody Tapp and Alex Gold.
Just been extremely unlucky, man. That's it. Just been extremely unlucky. One of these times, these takes are going to land.
But they hit hard. Like when they leave your mouth into that microphone, they hit.
Yeah, they're going to land eventually. Just a matter of time. Just got to wait a few more weeks. Patience.
Yesterday we talked about, or maybe that was Monday, who had the most accurate takes on the show.
Yeah. Yes.
Whose do you think hit the hardest?
Hit the hardest?
Who do you think has the hardest
difference
exit velocity on their takes?
I'm trying to quantify that, which means nothing.
I mean, if we're keeping with the strict baseball comparison, yours hit the hardest, but they don't result in hits.
So you think I have a low batting average?
Yeah. So you swing the hardest, but it doesn't equate to hits.
I accept that. I accept that. I am swinging for the fences at every at bat.
We will talk some Royals
You don't
baseball.
get to the Hall of Fame by hitting singles.
I mean, you can.
But it's harder.
That's fair.
Just do it 30% of the time. The rest of your
Performance-enhancing drugs.
Well, you do that already.
And just swing for the fences.
I would also like to start the show personally thanking the text line for getting me paid. I was told that they were on top of
somebody.
Dusty Likens.
You shamed them.
You know what I got from Dusty Likens this morning? A middle finger and a kiss my ass.
Really?
And then I had to explain to him, Alex and I were actually defending him on the show yesterday.
Were you, though?
You brought up how you brought
we
back
said you threw him under the bus.
Masters gear.
Yeah.
And we said, that's nice. And I said, oh, did everybody pay you?
And I said no.
And you said no. I go, oh, okay. And you go, Dusty hasn't. Just called him out on the air. And it turns out he got crushed this morning as he was filling in on Fesco. You guys just heard him. And it turns out you have an update, though?
We're square. Dusty's paid.
So it worked.
He even actually, Nick, instead of me paying $40 of the polo, Dusty actually gave me like a $15 finder's fee. He paid me more.
Because you guilt-tripped him.
He ended up paying on top of the $140 for the polo?
That's correct.
Oh, geez. Dusty spent $155 on this polo.
You know why? Because he felt bad.
He covered both items.
He felt bad because he knew you were calling him out yesterday.
It's called a VIG. You got to pay the juice. Couple days late.
It turns out public pressure works.
You know, I've always said, Gold, that making money off your friends is one of the lowest things you can do. Like if your buddy is a pot dealer back in the old days, if your buddy was a weed dealer and he was upcharging you and taking profit on you, he's low. That's low.
He's supposed to just give it to you at cost?
Don't turn a profit on me.
How many friends does he have?
Well, if you're just picking up some for yourself and it's like, hey, can you grab me one, two?
Oh,
that sort of deal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be pretty shit.
Like if he's running a legitimate operation, that's different.
I am surprised you
not
actually.
Legitimate, but yeah.
I am surprised you got a finder's fee. To Nick's last there, you were already at the Masters. You were already in the pro shop. You were already carrying them back on the airplane.
All those things are true.
And you weren't taking custom orders for anyone. It was just grab something. So it was just bing, 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 throw it in the bag.
Well, some things I took customs order on. It was just hard with hats because I didn't know what kind of hats they were going to have.
The text line is always correct on this, I think. You're usually a big fan of the show fund. They said that $15 should go to the show fund.
Wait, excuse me?
I actually agree with that.
We currently have $0 in the show
fund.
What the hell's $15 going to do in there?
It's
give us 15.
Infuse the show fund with cash? What do you mean? What's it going to do?
$15? That's going to get us started?
How many pairs of panties have we sold?
The last update I got was yesterday, and that was 11.
So the trip to Dongtown Underwear, 11 pairs, maybe more.
So if you guys would like, that is available now, I'm told, in store over, in the Crossroads area or on the website.
Ray gun.
And the Royals offense was a little better last night. Not so much in running, in scoring position, but,
we'll talk some Royals baseball coming up in
better
25 minutes or so, in particular with the strikeouts and what is occurring there. But it's been a quiet offseason for the Chiefs, right? That's a fair way to describe it. I don't think it's a reason to panic, but you think it tells us the direction that the Chiefs believe they can head in.
I think that they are signaling to me the same thing that we have already said about this team, which is they're aiming for a top 10 defense. They're telling themselves right now, offense is not affordable. We have looked at the wide receiver options. It's very expensive. We're not going to get mixed up in that game. We got a lot tied up in the offensive line anyway. So our goal now is to be, I would say, not the antithesis, but very different than how they've looked from a domination standpoint. They're trying to win in the trenches. They got the offensive line covered, and now I think they think, what would it look like if Mahomes had a top 10 defense for the next 3 or 4 years? Can we win in a different way? Because that's not how they have been winning. I understand every year they probably sit in a room and be like, we can make this defense as good as it can be. But then, I don't know, dude, come on. 8 games into the year, they face reality and understand what they are defensively. They have, if they put the resources into the draft specifically, they have for the first time in a long time a really good opportunity to find out how good they can make the defense because it's so young and so cheap and as talented as it's been probably since those early Andy Reid days when they still had Justin Houston and Marcus Peters and Tom Bahali and a lot of really good, 10-year NFL veteran type players.
Well, look, there was a clear emphasis last year on defense, both through the draft and free agency. It was obvious, right, that they were going to try to get younger and more athletic based on decisions that they made. And it was going to, as we discussed in training camp, it was going to pretty much force Steve Spagnuolo to play some of the younger guys. We know typically that's maybe something he hasn't always wanted to do so early on. And he admitted while we were up at camp, I want to say he said 4 to 6 weeks. He thought it was what it would take for the defense last year to get up to speed because of the youth. We all know last year defensively they were much better. And now, if you see the progress you made with having so many young corners, the Jalen Watsons play, and obviously Williams played, and Trent McDuffie play, and how effective they were in crucial moments. Obviously, Karlaftis, I can go on keep going down the list of guys that were impactful. Now you try to build on that. Like clearly that route, getting more athletic, getting more speed on defense, and younger, the right philosophy to go with.
But that wasn't the way they did it for years. Like I know we'd say every year.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They switched that last year, and they saw the return. They reaped the benefits. And I think they're going to just lean into that even more. I'm not telling you they're going to go draft 5 defensive players necessarily, and they might, but it's more about leaning into that again, and now they know that's a formula that can work. I also think the reason why they're approaching the offseason the way we've seen it so far has been knowing financially where they're at for the long term. And Chris Jones' pending contract, which we'll talk more about a little bit later on. That's something that has to get taken care of. There's guys that are very close to needing L'Jarius Sneed, somebody else that maybe gets a contract this offseason. That's gotten very quiet, by the way.
Well, they got a year, so clearly they're not in a rush to sign these guys. But we've seen when Chiefs players hit free agency, they don't come back. They find somebody else who will pay them more money. For as much as it's like, well, they still could also sign them. When the Chiefs are interested in you being here long-term, they tend to get that deal done with a year left in the contract like anyone else. But that's where they've started to devote their resources, and I think there's an upside and there's a downside to it. The downside is defensive runs last a lot less long. Like you can have a run of sustained top 10 offensive play every single year for a decade. Defenses don't usually go that long, but I also think that they understand that there's one clear thing that has happened in 2 Super Bowl runs, which is why this is absolutely the right call. Why I wouldn't be complaining if we sat in here 2 weeks from Monday and they had taken 4 defensive players in their first 5 picks and leaned into it. The 2 things that are the most obvious thing about their 2 Super Bowl wins, those are the 2 best defenses of the Patrick Mahomes era. Plain and simple. Last year's defense and the one that they won the Super Bowl, those are their 2 best under Mahomes. Their best defenses were in the early going with Alex Smith, probably in the entire Andy Reid era. And those were the best Alex Smith teams. It's not an accident that when Andy has a guy, and go back to Philly too, when Andy has a defensive coordinator he trusts and the talent around defense, he will be good enough on offense no matter who you give him, that if you actually manage to run into a top 5 defense on accident in a year, you're definitely either going to or winning the Super Bowl. Because every year he had that top 10 defense, he's just going to NFC title game after NFC title game with Donovan McNabb. You change that out to Patrick Mahomes, you give Mahomes a top 5 defense in any year he's going to the Super Bowl. And that's the thing that, that's always what, when I separate, we didn't get into the Carson Palmer comments because, I don't know, he's a former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback who said the current Cincinnati Bengals quarterback is better. So what? But, or we talked about this with Justin Herbert and what's happened with him. If you had at any point given Patrick Mahomes a top 5, or Josh Allen, you give Patrick Mahomes a top 5 defense, his ass is going to be in the Super Bowl. There's just no question. I think the Chiefs probably see that.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you said, I think the very first comment when you started the conversation, like, we can almost joke about it. Like, no kidding. Every team would be like, it's not as simple as, I want to give my quarterback a top 10 defense this year.
But, I mean, Josh Allen had top 5 defense 2 years in a row. Didn't mean anything.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, like, the notion of, like, now the Chiefs want to give him a top 10 defense, as if they didn't want to give him that 5 years ago.
Yeah, but I don't think it was realistic until now.
For
and
sure.
I think they must have known that in their heart of hearts.
And they made progress with it last year, clearly. But it's just, in general, the notion, it's not as simple as you say. It's just saying, like, the Chiefs now want to give him a top 10 defense. I'm pretty sure they wanted to give him a top 10 defense 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, understand, yes, probably, but also, like, I don't think these teams are so unrealistic that every first meeting they have, let's say, I think off-season program starts, like, next week.
Yeah.
They sit in this room and they're like, all right, guys, we got enough talent here. Every team in the league is like, we got enough talent here for a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. There's got to be more realistic conversations that happen inside of these teams, man. Like, even the Royals. I've had conversations with people in the front office when they talk about the way that internal systems evaluate where they'll land offensively, defensively, from a pitching staff perspective. They don't walk in there and be like, this is a top 5 pitching staff. They're like, I think based on our numbers, we could be like top 12. Like, I think that had to be how the Chiefs thought about their defense. And then now that they've gone through 2 Super Bowl titles, and in both of those years, it was the defense playing at its best at any point during the Mahomes era, and both of those years are the ones they won the Super Bowl. I think now they're going to swing harder at it. Swing harder than they have been swinging at it. Because think about all the free agent resources in the early part of the
It's going to have to occur in the draft then, Cody. Because if you're saying that, if you're telling me that they have switched entirely and that's what
it's been anything in free agency.
Exactly, that's my point. Like, if that's what they're gunning for, it's still relying on the young guys developing going forward. Because it's not like they went out and signed some big free agent. Their biggest defensive signing is a Minihue.
But that's a bigger deal than anything they've signed on offense, right?
But I'm just saying, like, if it's not where I'm like, now they're going to go build this top 10 defense. They're not Cody. They're not doing anything differently other than what they do in the draft potentially.
Keeping Chris Jones around for $110 million or whatever they end up paying him, that would be a sign to that. And then paying him Minihue, that's a bigger sign they made on the offensive end. And then if 3 of their first 4 picks in the NFL draft are defense again. And we certainly think defensive end and corner and all those things are in play. Hell, safety might be in play for them. Some of those first 4 rounds I don't think it's in play for the first round or second round, but I mean, it's in play in those first 4 picks. But I think that when you start looking at maybe the draft will be the signal of this, but I think that they're recognizing the same thing we said.
It's going to have to come in the draft. I mean, otherwise you're running back almost Frank Clark's out of the picture now. We know that, but
it includes last year's draft too, where maybe this process started, where we talked about where they went after 2 first-round picks, and they were both on the defensive side. And they've taken 2 second-round linebackers over the last 2 years. It seems like they understand that it's going to be easier to manipulate the offense than the defense. And they've yet to try out Mahomes with one of those elite-tier defenses we've seen other quarterbacks have. And that was the key of Tom Brady's run for a while. It's not that he wasn't great. It's just that every year, in addition to that, he had the 8th best or sometimes 1st best or 5th best defense.
Yeah, I think you can do it before Mahomes is 33 years old or 34 years old. Like right now, he's still in his prime. He's getting better. You're ways away from any sort of remote
let's put all the talent
decrease where you feel like, oh man, we got to help him out a little bit. No. He's helping everybody else still. He's elevating everybody else still. That's why last year they clearly were comfortable. They wanted to retain Tyreek Hill. They were comfortable moving on from Tyreek. It's why I think they weren't willing to go to certain dollar amounts on Juju, on Jacoby Myers, on Odell Beckham Jr.
I mean, they're out here saying Richie James is the number. Richie James is the single biggest offensive offseason signing so far. Oh, no, Juwan Taylor.
Yeah,
but that was, what's so weird about that? I always look at that deal as just like it was interchangeable with Orlando Brown.
Well, the reason
they were going to do something at left tackle, but probably Juwan Taylor.
You probably view it the same way when we talk about the mock drafts and like the tackle. It's not fun. It's not sexy. Signing a tackle, drafting a tackle.
No, it's a big
That's
move.
what it is. If I would have told you that any deal remotely like that was for a wide receiver, everybody would be going
to
nuts.
Me, it's like maybe those counteract each other. Whatever extension you give for Chris Jones and Juwan Taylor, those are comparable deals. We made 2 big plays, both on the defensive line. And that's another thing about this team. They have never been the dominate you in the trenches team, and it does feel like every year they try to move slowly closer towards that. And offensively, they always want a little more flexibility, but I really feel like you can start seeing the writing on the wall that the Chiefs are going to value defense in this draft.
I would love there to be some chaos, not related to the Chiefs, but chaos over the next month or so. So David Bakhtiari, one of the very talented tackles in football, he's been hurt over the last couple of years, but plays for the Packers. And he was talking on his podcast, Bussin' with the Boys, and he floated a scenario that, look, I'll admit, Not very likely, but I hope it happens because it would be incredible and chaotic. We talk about the drama in the NBA. This would be ultimate NFL drama. The scenario he laid out was that, quote, the Packers are rebuilding, whether you think so or not. Could they be good? I don't know. Could they be bad? Probably. If you're betting, more people are going to think they're going to be bad than good, right? Isn't that fair to say? He went on to say, so then they'll be like, well, we're going to suck anyway. We want what we want, and we're not going to bend to anyone, so we'll just eat it. We'll pay you. We don't care, talking about Aaron Rodgers, if we're going to do it our way, it's going to be on our terms. If not, we are going to, what are we going to be? Super Bowl contenders anyway, so we'll eat it, and you hang on the side. He's floating the idea of basically Aaron Rodgers just not playing in Green Bay, but the Packers saying, "Oh, wait a second, you're not going to agree to our terms, New York." That the Packers could choose to pay Rodgers to not play if the Jets won't give them what they want. Okay, I don't think that's happening, but it is actually a possible scenario, and it would be incredible. The Jets would be effed, which would be hilarious. Sorry, Jets fans, I would enjoy it tremendously. And then the Packers would be like, middle finger to you. We know we're going to suck anyway. Love's playing this year, whether we trade you or not. We might get a first-round pick out of this deal that we're asking for the Jets. It's not even a guarantee anymore they're getting a first-round pick. And, oh, Aaron Rodgers, you wanted to hold us hostage? Oh, you said your intentions to play for the Jets? Yeah, we're going to screw you over. Yeah, you're going to get paid, but you're going to probably end up just retiring at the end of this, and we're going to just screw everybody over. Not going to happen, but it would be incredible, and it is actually a scenario that could exist.
Are the Packers idiots? Like, of all the teams, we keep making this seem like the Jets are stupid. The Packers are idiotic. They blew their entire leverage point. They started losing their leverage.
This is their leverage.
They don't have a leverage. They're not going to do it.
But that's their leverage.
Cowards.
You're telling me they don't have leverage. The Jets don't have leverage then either. If that's the Jets are so far in, it's not even funny at this point.
Yeah, but so are the Packers, man. They drafted a first-round quarterback years ago. They openly said, we want his ass out of here. And now what? They're going to take one of the franchise best players of all time and make him ride the bench for an entire year? How the hell's that Hall of Fame ceremony going to go? Like, I know that you want to just think about this year's team and how this is going to go, but there's bigger things at play. You can't just hold a man hostage over this.
That'd be incredible.
This is so dumb. Like, this is, this could stand for any negotiation. If I told you, Gold, I'm leaving, or you said, or Speck told me, he's like, I want to fire you. I want your ass out of here. And then he's like, hey, look, this other station, they're not giving me what I want for you. I'm like, you don't want me. You don't get to demand anything you want. You don't want me here. That's not how this works.
I mean, I appreciate the example, but that's exactly how it works in the NFL. You're an asset. I own your rights.
He's not. He's a 39-year-old quarterback who costs $60 million. What kind of asset do they think he is?
Look, it's not going to happen. I'm with you. But acting as if the Packers can't do whatever they want is completely false. That he is under contract with the Green Bay Packers. If it actually was a scenario where they couldn't get any bit of compensation for him that they wanted, there is nothing preventing them from doing this scenario.
Like, other than the optics. Yes, the optics of being one of the worst-run franchises in football all of a sudden. They don't want that. Holding on to a $60 million salary cap hit that can be rolled over into next year's team. You're screwing yourself for years.
It wouldn't be for years. I disagree with that. I think the thought is also that Rodgers would not show up. He would eventually not show up, and so they wouldn't be paying the money anyway. That's the thought.
What, he would just sit out?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a risk. Just saying a guy, if you're saying we're just going to bench you, you're like, well, okay, I'll just sit on the bench and take my $60 million. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Rodgers isn't stupid. Nope. I mean, he might be kind of crazy sometimes, but he's not dumb. I don't think he's just going to be like, you know what, actually, I'll just stay home.
As a fan, this would be chaos and it would be incredible. I'm not a Packers fan. I don't give a damn if it screws their franchise over, Cody. I'm wanting chaos. And I also think, you know, and maybe this is because we saw the struggle for so many years, and Jets fans have struggled for so many years, though, about having to finally go and draft a quarterback and develop one, and his name is Patrick Mahomes, even though there wasn't probably as much developing as we all thought at the time because he was that great coming out of college. We just didn't know it for sure. The fact that the Jets are just trying to take the quick shortcut or whatever, I don't know. I would love for it to backfire on them. That they have held their entire offseason around Aaron Rodgers, and here it's April 12th, and they still don't have him on their roster. It's Tad Boyle, it's Chris Streveler, and it's Zach Wilson as the quarterbacks on their roster right now. So, yeah, it would actually be incredible to me to see it blow up in their face. It's not going to, but it would be awesome.
Who would they start? Carson Wentz, you think?
Wow.
Joe Flacco?
He's not even on the roster.
These are the free agent quarterbacks available, you know. They got Matt Ryan.
I mean, I would all of a sudden be calling the Baltimore Ravens a little bit. Is what I would be doing.
I would have done that already. I never understood.
That's what I'm saying. They're so far in on this is where they've lost leverage.
This is where I think, like, when we try to make these, like, big grandiose points that somehow, and fans try to make these, other people be like, oh, you think you're smarter than an NFL team? And my answer is, sometimes, yeah. Not every day, but sometimes yes. These stupid idiots have just been tracing after a 40-year-old quarterback who costs $60 million. They could just trade for a 26-year-old
what's your resume?
who won an MVP.
What's at the top of your list of qualifications where you feel like you are on par with some...
Logic, common sense.
Okay. I mean, you don't usually put those on resumes.
Those are
excels in logic and common sense. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty sharp.
Like, where is that at? Dude, it's just like sometimes I don't understand how teams, because there are times when like you're too close. I think what's happening with the Jets is they're too close. They had made up their mind that Aaron Rodgers was their guy, and they were just dead set on that set of circumstances and refused to budge off of it. And you're just like, there are other options available to you. Take those 2 first-round picks and trade them up to the higher part of the draft and take Will Levis. I don't care. You have other choices available to you that don't include or don't have to include. It doesn't matter. I was just thinking, how high can they get in the draft? But it's just but here's the thing. Honestly,
you have to consider what fans would accept as well. Like, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm saying, I don't want to take another flyer on some maybe he'll be good rookie quarterback. I want a guy who's been great in the past. We've seen him be great. We saw him just a year ago look like the best quarterback in the NFL.
This is what kept the Chiefs losers, Nick, for 30 years. I just want to make that very clear. They made the Chiefs losers for 30 years. They sat on that same dumb logic and just kept trying to go get Matt Castles or Joe Montana when he's 78 years old.
But the Jets
and try
just
to turn
drafted
it into
a quarterback 2 years ago. It's not like they've never spent high
Zach Wilson,
draft picks on rookies.
I know, but saying like, well, like in a decade we'll try again. That's just not how the NFL works. You have to it sucks. It sucks to keep taking swings. But it's the only logical solution at quarterback unless you can secure, like you said, like if you can get Rodgers, fine.
And they're going to end up getting him. It's just, I love this scenario that Bakhtiari presented because it's not an impossible one. It's very unlikely they do it, but it's not like they can't do that scenario.
But that's the same thing that Nick's talking about is like, if you're factoring in fan stuff, then they have to factor that in with Rodgers too, where it's like, I don't think the fans are like, I'm sorry, we're paying this guy $60 million just to kick it?
But you have to admit, if you are in especially New York City, that is a part of the equation.
Yeah,
you do consider what your fan base is willing to accept. You're not going to make a move that they are just going to absolutely hate.
I also think there's pressure on them, not only because of New York itself, but the other team in New York, the Giants, they made the play. You can make all the Daniel Jones jokes you want, but they made the playoffs last year. They are a contender in that division.
And the Jets have one of the longest playoff droughts. And that's probably why, Nick, what you're talking about, they're more desperate than you think. It's like, well, they haven't made the postseason in 11 or 12 years. So they're just desperately trying to get back. But that's the worst way to run the franchise. Just be very clear. That is the worst way to handle business. Like, we're so desperate. We so badly just need to be in the postseason for a minute. It's just a terrible way to operate.
The Buccaneers did it. The Rams did it. The Broncos did it with Peyton Manning. Like, the idea that
trading
going
for Rodgers
after
is not a terrible thought
the idea
process.
that going after a veteran receiver who's maybe a little bit past, or a quarterback who's a little bit past his prime, is not like it's never worked. In fact, it's worked many times.
Well, I've told you I'm not disagreeing with that. The last 4 or 5, I think, that have happened there, they end up in a conference title game, right? Like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, all of those. But and Rodgers is of that. I mean, he's not Tom Brady, but he's a future Hall of Fame.
First ballot Hall of Famer, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's such... Look, if you get the win, it's the same thing. It's like, fine, if you make this trade and then you cash in for the big prize, nobody's going to say you ever made the wrong decision. It doesn't matter how ugly your team looks 2 years from now, like what the Bucs are facing now. But if you fall anywhere short of that, it just, like, this is why I don't understand this notion of, like, they should feel just stuck with the Aaron Rodgers option. You should have been calling on Lamar this whole time. But it's just the league has decided they don't want Lamar because of the injury stuff over the last year. That, like, all of a sudden they've just turned on him. And so... It's like, if you're just stuck on this 139, like, you got to take chances in the NFL draft. You can't not risk quarterback.
Just getting started here on a Wednesday. It's Cody and Gold up next. We'll get back to some Royals baseball, and the strikeout numbers are glaring for one Royals player in particular, and Cody's a little scared.
Cody and Gold.
Would I rather have my ween slammed in a car door? Or would I rather have my fingernails ripped off with a pair of needle-nose pliers? I don't know. I can't decide.
Brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete. For asphalt, concrete, and parking lot maintenance, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Trusted in Kansas City since 1994. Online at GANNasphalt.com.
If you would have started looking for a new career by the time all the Aaron Rodgers rumors started, there's a chance that you could actually finish a program at Centric before Aaron Rodgers actually gets traded to the Jets. Like, that's a real thing because it only takes 4 months at Centric.
At this rate, you might be able to finish it before the Aaron Rodgers thing still gets settled. You didn't have to go back to the beginning. It might be September. Remember when they threatened that? Back then, you go to centric.com/610 and see what kind of career offerings they have for you. Talk to our guy, Russ Mondry. He can walk you through everything and see how easy it is to get a career in IT.
Yeah, they're going to work with you as well. If you're someone that has a job right now, and of course you need to still retain that job while you're working towards your new career, they'll work with you if you're in the middle of the day with your normal shift. They got classes in the evening. Hey, if you can't make it out to their campus that Cody and I visited just about a month or so ago, you can do classes online. So they're very flexible. They will work with your schedule.
IT is the future of Kansas City. Let Centric make it your future. Again, go to centric.com/610 and see for yourself. They've got GI Bills. They accept other financing options. You can find out for yourself just how big of a change it can make for you. Don't wait around finding out what your next career is. Go to centric.com/610.
Springfest is here at Lowe's. Don't miss out on the best deals of the season. Refresh your yard 5 bags of premium mulch for just $10. And refresh your home with savings on paint and stain. Right now, buy one, get one 50% off on 1-gallon cans and 5-gallon pails of HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Paint, Stainmaster Paint, and Cabot Exterior Stains. Shop Springfest today. Valid through 4/12. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
Navien tankless water heaters, the proven leader in condensing technology. Request a Navien because you deserve the best in endless hot water delivery. Learn about Navien's condensing tankless water heaters and find a Navien contractor at tanklessmadesimple.com.
Taxes are due. Have you filed yet? Don't worry. Jackson Hewitt is racking up the assists. They guarantee your biggest refund, and they will get you filed or get you an extension before the deadline. Beat the clock and the crowd. Go to Jackson Hewitt today.
Has anyone seen Roger? Where's Roger? It's time to open the jewelry store.
Where is everyone?
Did they all take the day off?
At traditional jewelry stores everywhere, employees are quiet quitting and going to Diamonds Direct. Not just to work, but to shop. That's because even with employee discounts, Diamonds Direct offers all shoppers better selection and much better value. As a true direct importer of diamonds, Diamonds Direct has long-standing relationships deep in the world diamond industry, as well as the best diamond cutters across the globe, so they can say the quiet part out loud without the middleman markups. Diamonds Direct offers customers bigger, higher quality diamonds at a lower cost every day. Not to mention the best selection, the best customer service, best warranties, and best overall experience.
Hello.
Quiet quit paying too much for your diamonds. Go to Diamonds Direct. You won't be alone in how happy you are. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion. Get details, directions, showroom hours, and more at diamondsdirect.com.
The NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/win right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. Go to FanDuel.com/win and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. That's FanDuel.com/win. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY in New York. Must be present in state where lawful to wager. 21 plus in president select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpd.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit KSGamblingHelp.com in Kansas. 1-888-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit MDGamblingHelp.com in Maryland. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia.
With your choice of select sandwich, nugs, fries, and a drink, Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag is your go-to. Your nugget wingman. Your hot and crispy fry co-pilot.
Just like us. We're like the bag boys.
What?
Bag boys, bag boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we bring your food?
For a deal you can count on, bet on Biggie and choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Bag boys, bag boys.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Includes choice of double-stacked JBC or crispy chicken sandwich with 4-piece nuggets, junior fry, and small soft drink. Third-party delivery pricing may be higher.
So we were in Times Square.
Taking selfies with all the lights.
I bought a shot glass.
I bought a snow globe at this little shop.
You know, I collect those.
Then we grabbed a slice.
It's a super secret spot. It smelled a bit
funky outside.
I heard they don't have alleys.
They don't have alleys.
They don't have alleys, but they certainly have
people.
Lots of people.
When everyone's vacation sounds the same?
It's time for something different. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
I'm JR of CBS Sports Radio, and I want to introduce you to a new podcast titled Agents of Inclusion, brought to you by Special Olympics, Odyssey, and JR Sport Brief Productions. Every Wednesday, we'll be speaking with a different Special Olympics athlete to share their stories of perseverance, accomplishment, and path towards inclusion. We don't want you to just listen. We want you to become an active agent of inclusion as well. Special Olympics, Agents of Inclusion, find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The 610 Sports Radio phone line is brought to you by Onder Law Injury Lawyers. Visit getjim.com.
Anthony Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric. Technicians you can trust with your house keys.
Anthony's best deal of the year just got even better. Right now, when you purchase a new AC, the furnace is free. Plus, receive a 12-year parts and labor warranty and guaranteed next-day installation, or we pay you $500. Schedule online today at AnthonyPHCE.com.
The NFL Draft is coming to Kansas City, and during the first round on Thursday, April 27th, we want you to watch, join, and listen to us. Nick, Bink, and Chris are anchoring our draft coverage starting at 6 o'clock. Bob and Josh are live from Union Station. The Midday Show, Cody and Gold, are live from the Boulevard Beer Hall Rec Deck. And The Drive, myself and Rob, will be sitting back watching the first round on all our social media platforms. So watch, join, and listen to 610 Sports Radio on one of the biggest nights in Kansas City sports history on your official broadcast partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. 610 Sports Radio.
We are less than 2 weeks away from drafts and drafts out at the Landing in Liberty. That's Tuesday, April 25th. Starts at 6:30. The entire 610 crew is going to be hanging out there, getting set for the draft. There's going to be a full-on roundtable discussion plus audience Q&A. It's all emceed by Nick. There's a panel of Nate Taylor from Athletic, former Chiefs offensive lineman Mitchell Schwartz going to be there, along with a special guest or two. As we mentioned, the event is free, open to the public. It's a ton of fun. And seriously, the whole 610 crew is going to be there. Nick's going to be leading that panel. That's going to have great insight the days leading up, just a few days leading up to the NFL draft, both with the Chiefs and just as a whole, and how some of the movement earlier in the draft can impact what the Chiefs might be able to do at 31. Because that's the funny thing. We can talk all we want about what the Chiefs should do. There's 30-plus picks that are going to impact what the Chiefs can actually do, which is why the mock draft simulator stuff is actually kind of interesting versus just picking who you want to pick. There's other teams factor into the equation there.
And sometimes it's less of a mystery when you're picking in the top five because there's only one or two or three names maybe. If it's quarterback, maybe a couple of names that you're even kicking around at that point. Nick, will you be taking submissions for questions from us?
I think it's an audience Q&A.
Yeah, so...
I mean, like ahead of time. Just get a couple.
Are you familiar with the concept of content? So you want to be able to determine both questions during the panel and the Q&A.
Yeah, that's correct.
Would you just like to fill in for me?
No, I'm okay. I'd like you to do this.
Okay.
I just want one question. That's all.
If there's remotely even 10-second gap between you saying, all right, do we have any questions? And there's 10 seconds of awkward silence, I'm running up there with the microphone. Yeah, Nick, I've got one. I've got one for you. And we'll do that. We'll try to kill the awkwardness.
I did actually kind of think about, like, okay, should I, reach out to people to see, what they want to hear us talk about? But that's kind of the beauty of a Q&A is you get to come up and ask questions. And you'll get to talk to Nate Taylor and Mitchell Schwartz. And I can't emphasize enough.
Are you keeping them draft-specific questions? Because someone's going to want to ask Mitchell Schwartz, what's it like being in the huddle with Patrick Mahomes? Bink might ask that question, actually.
I might ask him, what's it feel like to pancake someone?
Well, that's fair.
Is it cool?
I bet
that'd be my opening question.
Is it cool? I think we've asked Creed something similar.
Is it cool to pancake someone?
What's it like just to basically destroy another human being on the football field?
Make them feel
great.
small and weak.
Feels great. I'm sure.
And I want to emphasize, like, we haven't released the name of our final guest, and we won't be releasing it until we get there. Like, you won't know until Thursday night. It's going to be really cool. Like, if you like the draft, if you're an NFL draft guy, if you're an NFL fan, I think you're going to really, really like our secret special guest.
Okay.
So vague. Mysterious.
We will all find out when we get there.
I have it on authority that there could be another extra guest that will be in attendance. So it sounds like word of this event is spreading around the kingdom, so to speak. And other people are saying, hey, can I get in? Can I be involved?
Gonna have to have a massive stage, man.
That's true. That's true.
I've actually heard that they've built a new stage there at the landing. So you're good to go.
We went and we checked the place out. We scoped it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's a perfect venue for this event. It is massive. There's a stage where you have a great vantage point no matter where in the building you're sitting. So the landing in Liberty is going to be a great spot to host this event.
If you need a place, I don't live that far. If you need a place to stay for a couple of days leading up so that you can have more preparation time.
You're offering listeners a place to stay.
Your obsession with me sleeping in your house.
It's kind of weird.
Is a little weird.
It's kind of weird,
Why?
man.
Why don't you want to stay at my place?
It's not about that. It's why are you so insistent that I
totally
sleep?
Fine.
Like, I feel like I'm going to wake up and you're just going to be hovering over me.
I mean,
I'll switch the doorknobs around so you can lock it.
I thought you were offering a spot for listeners.
What, like we're going to auction off one listener spot in my basement?
We need a surge for the show fund. So,
just got $15 according to you two.
Well, are you going to put it in?
Maybe.
So I think that's the solution. Also, this is a really good, Nick, I don't want to spoil the guest. Like, I know we're not supposed to mention who the guest is, but I'll admit the text line's pretty close. They said, Nick got Chiefsaholic to come out of hiding. Chiefsaholic's going to be there. I know I'm not supposed to say who the guest is, but close.
Do you guys think if near the very, the tail end of the Q&A, we say, and we do have an extra VIP guest in the building, and then Chiefsaholic comes sprinting onto the stage in his wolf costume, the place would erupt,
we
right?
We should buy a wolf costume and have somebody come running in and do the exact same thing.
Okay, well, don't say that on air.
We should do that.
Don't say it on air.
Well, he's already your guest. I apologize.
But, dude, don't you think the crowd would just erupt?
Yes. Yes. The crowd would. It would be an incredible
moment. Ever bring this. Don't ever bring this up on air again. People will kind of forget about it, but that would be a great bit to pull.
Very good.
While we're there. So let's talk about that during the next break.
Okay. Let's talk some baseball in the meantime, though. The Royals last night. It was just, honestly, I think I tweeted out, disgusting, gross, the way it finished up last night in extra innings, losing to the Rangers after coming from behind.
Bobby Wood Jr. made that great catch.
Chapman continues to pitch amazing out of the bullpen. He looks like a dominant closer right now. Scott Barlow, unfortunately, gave up the walk-off home run in the 10th inning. Okay, as I've told you, it's not the game itself. It's how our individual players performing. And right now, MJ Melendez, it's rough at the plate, to say the least, man. He is not seeing the ball well at all.
God, that's putting it so mildly.
I know.
We talked a lot about Nick Prado's strikeout problems in the minor leagues, or Bobby Wood Jr. swinging and missing too much, and some of the other players that have come up for the Royals and their ability to strike out less. MJ Melendez is currently striking out at a 46% rate. A bad major league strikeout rate is 30. A bad one. Striking out half the damn time. 17 of his 37 at-bats this year have ended that way, including 2 more last night. And I get it, the broadcast and other people, try to soften a little bit because he has one of the highest hard hit rates in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'm about done with that, by the way. I'm about done with that. I'm the harder hit rate stuff. Maybe some people are already there. I'm about 2 weeks away. Can we make a rule?
With him individual or just as a stat in general?
The entire team, once the calendar turns to May, I cannot stand, and this is not a shot at anybody on the broadcast because everybody's doing it. We've done it. Everybody's done it. If I hear hit rate in May as they're still just really unlucky.
Right there.
I can't handle the unlucky crap if we're in May. I can do it for another 2 weeks.
11 or 12 games, I'll listen to it. You're right. But yes, by May, it's either you're good at hitting the baseball and consistently do so, or you strike out a ton and occasionally make contact. because it's worrisome right now because it makes you put into play are other factors playing in there. So, like, for instance, we used to have Witt on this show or talked to him in passing or those things. He had talked about at times, like, how he got off to a slow start on offense a couple of years after, and he spent the entire offseason working on right field. And then all of a sudden, he was the second baseman because of injury. So he'd spent this entire time working on this new position, working on his arm strength. He was fumbling the ball around a little bit, and he was playing not as good a defense at second base as he was used to. And then he was struggling at the plate, and he had admitted to us after the fact that being messed around a little bit or moving around a little bit had an impact on his bat. Are we sure that's not happening with MJ?
Well, look,
I don't want to say for sure that that's the case, but this focus on right field, and then last night he goes back to the catch, and they don't have a true backup catcher, so he's not always the right fielder, and then he took a day off because he caught for a full day.
I think they're asking for too much. I really do. I mean, I think you're asking him to be your leadoff hitter, and then you're doing what you're saying, which is have him catch kind of, sort of, as a backup catcher for this team, and then it's left, it's right. Like, I think especially when somebody's struggling at the plate, I think you need some consistency with where he's at in the lineup and consistency where he's at in the field. And if that means, I know they're trying to be careful with Salvi, and they've got pre-scheduled days off and all this.
Yeah.
As you said, well, then have a quote-unquote real backup catcher. If you're worried about that.
Yeah, we all thought Vernier was going to make the roster.
So I do think it's a small factor in this. Look, the Royals right now, you mentioned the percentage just for MJ Melendez, but as a team, the Royals have the second most strikeouts in all baseball.
They had the 10th most 2 days ago.
Yeah, they have the second most, 113 strikeouts so far. The Giants are the only team worse. The San Francisco Giants, 122 strikeouts. The Royals have 113.
MJ Melendez is leading the league in strikeouts right now.
I mean, that's a big reason why the team is at 113 strikeouts through the first 2 weeks or so of the season.
Well, again, he's, a sixth of the entire total right now? Mm-hmm. Look, he's still getting on base a little bit. Yeah, and he is hitting the ball hard a little bit. So maybe there are some things that are getting ready to turn it. But this goes back to maybe the conversation we had a little bit yesterday. And what you're talking about putting on there too much. It's hard because they don't have the veteran bats to surround them with other guys. And these are the guys they need to be good if this team's going to be good here in the next couple of years. But the guy's played 139 games. 139 games, and you are asking him to learn a brand new position and hit leadoff, and he's played less than a full major league season. It's a lot. There's a lot on MJ, and now he's struggling. And we already talked about how some players handle that first taste of failure in the big leagues, but this also isn't all that uncommon. Last year, he played in 129 games. He struck out 131 times. So clearly, he's having a hard time not striking out in the big leagues. And I'm not saying this is the sitting down MJ Melendez conversation. It's definitely not that. But it is you need to find ways to protect him. And protecting him might be keeping him in one position or letting him go back to a comfortable position and catching so that he doesn't feel because you know what might be happening here? He might be feeling like his bat matters more than his position. Because defensively, as a catcher, you can get by with a lot more. Your value can be in other ways. You're throwing out runners. You're calling games. There's more things to feel like you're helping the team win. If playing right field, it's a lot harder to not feel like your value to the team is how you hit. He might just be putting too much pressure on himself because the strikeouts are very high right now, to a concerning rate.
And again, I'll say the entire team, though. I mean, this is also what happens when you just had a game where you struck out 10 times, and then last night they struck out 9 times.
Well, that was 9 times on DeGrom. They probably struck out more.
11 or 12, yes, but nine last night from DeGrom. So I mean, if you're looking,
that was a winning bet, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, I gave my spot up to Cody so he can redeem himself last night, and you did. So
completely redeemed myself.
I'm glad you were able to do that.
I'm 1-1.
You were sweating a little bit last
night. Well, based on units, I'm still technically down. But let's ignore that for just a minute.
What's a unit to you?
To me?
Yeah, to you personally.
You're not really supposed to share your unit size, Nick.
Really? Why?
Well,
why? Is that etiquette or something?
Yeah, it's
betting etiquette. Screw that. Let's just break rules. $20.
Wait a minute.
That's my unit size.
This interests me. Why is that bad etiquette?
Because people will, and we're talking about sports betting here.
Unit shame you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's loser mentality. But $20, Nick. That's what I bet.
Standard bet for me.
Trust me, they'll shame you for being too small of a unit.
So people in the sports betting community will talk trash on people that have not the same betting amounts. Therefore, the unit.
Like if you're not betting as much as me.
This is why the unit thing is used, because Cody's average bet is different than random guy's average bet, my average bet, your average bet, whatever. And so instead of just saying, yeah, he's betting $100 a game and I'm betting
$20,
you basically just say, hey, I'm betting 1 unit, which everybody can understand what that is. For Cody, that might be $20. Someone else might be $5. It might be $100 it might be $1,000 for somebody else. Like that's the idea. Anyway.
Well, so no, but this is interesting.
But
because
Cody usually talks about unit size when he's talking about taking pills.
Well, that's the thing, because I've always found that the size of your unit doesn't matter that much as long as you know how to use it properly.
If you're effectively using that,
right,
then you're good.
So and I've never had anybody shame me for my unit size. Nobody's ever been like, "Oh, your unit's not big enough."
Yeah, you just haven't made it.
You need to have a bigger unit to get the job done. I was like, I don't know. The results are pretty good with my unit size.
But see, you haven't publicly announced your unit size.
I will if you guys. If that's what you guys want.
But with betting, people will tell. People really don't tell their unit size in betting either.
Too secretive. I don't like all this secret nonsense.
I'll tell you
Let's
what.
Just have it all out there.
Mine's $20.
Yeah, I usually probably bet 25.
Like for golf bets, when I'm betting on so if I bet on a guy at 10-1. I'll do a unit and a half or 2 units versus a guy at 30-1 where I'll usually just do 1 unit.
Or even maybe a half a unit.
It took me dude, I'll tell you this with betting. It took me a long time to figure out how units worked and how to apply them. It was such a confusing concept for me for a really long time.
When you first started?
You figured out how to utalize
Well, I was like, how do I know when to use more than 1 unit? When I just have good vibes? There's got to be a better strategy to this.
Well, it turns out you got to figure it out.
I'm glad you got the unit figured out.
Well, you know what? And I would say this, it makes life so much easier when you get your units figured out. When you just are comfortable with the size of your unit and you just say, okay, this is it. This is what it's going to be.
A lot less stressful,
Hate it or love it.
Yeah.
This is me.
It's excellent. Are we talking about betting?
Yep, we are.
Yeah, we were.
Definitely. What else would we be talking about?
That's exactly. Just look it up. That's what people use to measure their bet size.
Nick's notable notes.
Felt like an appropriate time, maybe to.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Move things along. Okay, guys. So mock drafts are all the rage. We love mocks here on Cody and Gold. But I do think that there is another side to the draft game that is just as important, if not more important, and we really want to have good, nuanced, intelligent conversations about what teams should or will do in the draft, and that is the big board. What are your guys' thoughts on big boards versus mock drafts? Mock drafts are sexy, but I feel like big boards are more like the meat and potatoes.
I think I actually like the big boards better because it's not mock drafts. Yes, it's team needs and all that, but sometimes you want to know, all right, truly, who is the best wide receiver? Who is the best overall player in the draft or the top 10? This goes into our running back conversation.
Positional value, yeah. You might think Bijan Robinson is the 9th best player in the draft, which starts to make it at least to feel like you're getting value when you're taking him towards the end of the first round.
So Matt Miller of ESPN, really, really highly respected NFL draft expert, he released his draft board today. 368 prospects. Talk about thorough.
Where's your character concerns big board?
It's a work in progress, man.
Is it going to be 300 players?
I don't know if we're ever getting to 368, but
maybe 60?
We can try. Yeah, if we got to 60, I'd be very happy. And I thought this was really interesting for one reason. Wide receivers are obviously a popular position to discuss with the Chiefs, and I wanted to see where he had the receivers. This draft class, I don't know if I would say much maligned. It's just kind of polarizing with the way a lot of people seem to talk about them. It certainly doesn't stack up with maybe the last 2 or 3 years where we've seen a lot of talent at the top. Jackson Smith-Njigba is Matt Miller's top-ranked wide receiver. He actually has him. He's higher on him than pretty much anybody else I've seen. He has him as the 5th best prospect in the entire draft class, behind just Will Anderson, Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson, and C.J. Stroud, with a 95 overall grade. So I do think when you go, as we start to see this crystallize a little bit more, it's almost universal now that JSN is being regarded as the top wide receiver prospect in the class.
I mean, it's hard. I don't disagree. It sucks in a way because I think my dream scenario somehow ended up in Kansas City, but it's just not going to happen. They would have to trade up to 12.
Because the best wide receiver, somebody's going to talk themselves into taking him near the top 10.
And if it's really, if the wide receiver class is viewed the way everybody's been talking here recently, which is that there really maybe is only one wide receiver that truly should be a first rounder, well, then that's going to put more value on going up and getting Jackson Smith.
Because what you're going to do when you go through this draft class is you're going to get like small receiver fatigue. You're gonna look through receivers 2 through 9. Okay. Is there anybody other than Quentin Johnston that isn't 5'9", 185 pounds? Because you look at the rest of his big board, he has Jackson Smith and Jigba as the 5th-ranked player overall. His next highest wide receiver into Flowers at 23. So no receivers between 5 and 23, and then all of a sudden there's a run on it. Zay Flowers is at 23 out of Boston College.
So he has 2 wide receivers as first-round grades in his mind, basically.
Yeah, it's 5 in the top 30, but I don't know if they necessarily has them as first-round grades. But Zay Flowers at 23, Jordan Addison of USC, the Biletnikoff winner, at 24. And then he has Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee at pick 26, or at number 26, and then Quentin Johnston at 31. So in his mind, there are 5 guys in the top 31. The question now becomes, if you're the Chiefs, where is the line of what is acceptable for what you think a Super Bowl contending team and a team that expects to be the number 1 offense in the NFL, what is the line of what you expect from a receiver day one, and then what their long-term potential is going to be?
Well,
knowing that you just spent a second-round pick on one last year and you have some holes to fill this season.
I mean, the interesting thing is we haven't seen Brett Veach draft a wide receiver in the first round. Like, we haven't seen that. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen them take the second or third round guy, and obviously those guys, the biggest producer has been McCole Hardman, and that people were disappointed with that. So if you tell me that they actually spent pick 31 or traded up to get a wide receiver, the expectation has to be increased, even though we can talk all we want about how rookie receivers don't typically do much in an Andy Reid system. If you spend a first-round pick for the first time in the Brett Veach era on a receiver, my expectation is going to be much higher than it was.
Really, the only one you could go through in Andy Reid's history is Jeremy Maclin. He was taken 19th overall, and he had like 850 yards his rookie season.
I don't disagree with anything you said, Gold, but it's crazy that all of that is true in the year where the wide receiver position is as weak as it's been in recent history at the top. So it's like this,
which is why I think it's
less and
likely
you're taking a first rounder.
Which is why I think unless they trade up, it's less and less likely to me, as we've talked this out for the last few weeks, that they actually go wide receiver in the first round.
The advantage of taking edge in the first round feels like you're getting such a better value at 31 than any wide receiver.
I'm kind of
you
there.
would take in that position. So if you're taking wide receiver, go up. Go up and make sure that, like, if JSN some reason is sitting at 18 and other teams have fallen on because they don't like this wide receiver draft class, then make the decision you want to make.
So here's the difficult thing about that, because I would sort of put that in, like, what is your dream scenario? At this point, it's take the best pass rusher that's available to you at 31, but if you're going to take a wide receiver, I'd prefer you to move up. The hard part about that is, do you really want to give up, like, a day 2 pick to move up? Because you still need edge rusher. You still need some help at tackle. You want to build depth at different positions on both sides of the ball. So it's sort of that double-edged sword of, like, maybe you could move up to get your wide receiver. Is that worth it to sacrifice depth and sacrifice a day 2 pick, which I'm not sure it is.
I mean, it hurts the whole let's build around the defense part of the conversation to start the show. It feels like wide receiver doesn't make sense at 31. And that you're just better off taking the risks of those Trey Palmers or the other guys you've mentioned later in the drafts of the world, you know?
Yeah.
Just get in that third round range and take it flyers.
Again, though, like, you get to those guys, like, there's a reason why the 6'3", 203-pound receiver who runs a 4.3 is thought available of as being a third-round prospect.
Yeah, but also those guys, even though they're thought of that way, do still pan out. Wide receivers